So in this video, we're going to be making fullness in the cap sleeve. So if you've seen my last video, then you'll know how to make a cap sleeve. If you want to figure out how to do this, then look at the last video. If you have your cap sleeve, then you're ready to do this. So what this is going to look like is we're going to be adding fullness to the top here by adding paper, and then it'll make this top part bigger. And then as you sew it, then you add gathers so that it puffs it just a little bit. So here we go. So first things first is we are going to line this up. All right, and we're going to need to make a line here. So you're gonna go, the first line you're gonna make is gonna be in the middle, just like that. And you don't want to go all the way to the end because we're not adding fullness in both directions. So this is gonna stay the same length. It's gonna change shape a bit. But we just want to cut all the way just to the edge there. And we're gonna make about 5 lines. So maybe, and I mean, it's probably about 2.5 inches, between the cuts. So once again, you don't want to go all the way to the bottom. And one more right here. All right, and then we're gonna do the same thing over here. We'll go to 2.5 inches. And this really helps if you have a grid to do this on, because you don't have to do so much measuring with a ruler. It's just already there. But if you have to, then go ahead and take a little bit more time to measure it out. All right. Okay, so that should be what it looks like for you. Next thing we're gonna do is we're just gonna cut. We're gonna cut exactly what we drew, and you don't want to cut all the way through. If you accidentally cut all the way through, just go ahead and tape it back. But you want to cut far enough down that it can turn easily, but you don't want it to rip. So you're just gonna have to be gentle until you tape the pieces of paper underneath. So that is what it should look like for you. Now, as far as spacing goes, you can do whatever you want. If you want just a little bit of fullness in your cap sleeve, then you just do like maybe 1/4 of an inch each one. Whatever you do, you should make sure that you measure each gap to be even. But if you want a lot of gathers, maybe you can make the gaps bigger. It's kind of just whatever you want to do for your design. And you see it changes the shape a bit, but then when you cut out the fabric and sew the gathers, it kind of will pull it back in, but then you'll have this poofiness to it. So, all right, the next step, we're just gonna move this out of the way so we don't accidentally cut it. The next step is you're just gonna roughly cut, actually I'm just gonna use this because they don't have to be perfect. It's kind of whatever fullness you want. Make sure you cut at least that wide. And then however many slits you made is how many pieces of paper you'll cut out. So you just put these over here. And once again, it's nice to have a grid underneath, so it's a lot easier to measure. And you'll just, and it looks kind of messy, but it's kind of what pattern making is. If you want, if you save your patterns, then you can always just, you know, do all of this, and then when it's all done, you trace it onto another piece of paper so it's a little cleaner. And then you'll just tape. All right, so this is what it should look like after you've taped all of the pieces in. So the next thing you're gonna do, and you can always draw a line if it helps. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut it out. Well, I'll just show you. So you obviously you don't want it to skip like that, so you're just gonna correct the edges just a little bit. You know, it doesn't have to be perfectly measured. I mean, you don't want to cut off too much, you just want to make it as even as you can. Just until it looks right. If it doesn't look right, then keep correcting, but that looks as close as we're going to get. So go ahead and cut off those pieces. All right, and then you can throw those away. And this is what your full cap sleeve will look like.